Assalamu alaikum. My name is Sabeen Chaudhary and I'm the student of Foreman Christian College. Today we're going to conduct an interview on the topic Impact of Family Support System on the Lives of Professional Females. So today we are having Ma'am Aqdus Aslam with us. Ma'am, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, Sabeen. Thank you for inviting me.
So could you please briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Aqdus Aslam. I work at the Department of Education at Foreman Christian College University in Lahore. I have extensive experience of about 15 years working in various different professional capacities within the education sector, from teaching to student counseling to pre-service teacher training and post in-service teacher trainings also.
Okay, that's nice. So I would like to ask you some questions related to the topic.
Sure.
So the first question I would like to ask is, how has your family support system influenced your career choices and aspirations?
So, Sabine, I grew up in a very progressive family.
Okay.
I would say progressive because in my family, pretty much all of the women were very well educated.
Okay.
They not only were they well educated, in many cases they were even more well educated than the men around them.
Okay.
And secondly, they were all pursuing professions. So whether I look at my immediate family, which is my mother and my sister, or I look at my khala or my momani or my popos, everybody, they were all working professional women. Everybody had different careers, everybody had a different routine. And my father was also very ambitious about children studying and doing really well.
Yeah.
And he kept honing on this idea that, life will always get harder and harder and harder.
True.
So you need to really be very well educated. And not just well educated, you need to be earning reasonably well so that you can look after yourselves, but also he always made it a point to also say that only if you earn well would you be able to contribute to the society and help others also. So these things were very much a part of what I grew up. And I was super ambitious as a child. And I think even till much later at my university and early career, I was very, very ambitious. And for me, having a very successful career, with or without the money, irrespectively, was very important. And I worked hard. There were times when I juggled multiple jobs. I lived away from my family in a different city in Lahore, all alone after graduating for several years before I got married, just so that I could pursue a career that I
That
wanted.
must be difficult for you.
It was very, very
Yeah.
difficult, yes. But it was also a lot of fun. It was a lot of learning. And if I have to recommend it to somebody else, I would say definitely live out of the home in a completely independent situation. Not, a taken care of system in a hostel, but independently, at least for a year in your life. You really begin to see the world and you begin to realize how hard it is for people to be outside the family system. And but my parents were always behind me. And I remember that I think my parents saw it very early on that now that I've left the city, I'm not coming back. So when I said that, I want to pursue my job in Lahore, I'm originally from Islamabad.
Okay.
They weren't really surprised. They were like, "Acha, theek hai, we understand," and they supported my decision. And sometimes when things went haywire, and early career is always hard, I knew they had my back, so that was really helpful. And it gave me a very strong start in the beginning.
Okay, nice. So the next question I would like to ask is, how do you believe your family's attitude towards gender roles have influenced your career path?
I think because of my family structure, for me, it is very important to recognize that men and women can both achieve.
Yeah.
And they can all be super well educated. They can all figure out whatever career path they want to. And this has meant to me that I can choose whatever I want, and that nobody else has the power to influence that decision. I can consider circumstances, but the decision is with me. So that is a lot of strength that my parents have given to me. And yes, that has been a little hard when I got married. I got married to in a family where there were no female professionals. And it was very different. The culture within the family was very different, and it was hard. But I have stuck to the fact that this is working is my decision. I am passionate about it, and it is my responsibility. And it helps. It helps everybody. It even helps the family. So that strength has come from my parents to recognize that yes, I can push forward, and I can hold my ground for whatever decision I make.
Okay, so how do you think that the presence or absence of a support has been particularly crucial during challenges moments in your career?
Sabina, I think support is really, really important. Eventually at some point, we all feel alone at different phases of our life. And that is when the village around us, the people who we love, the people who care for us, really make a difference. I remember when at a time when I felt that in my marriage I was not getting enough support. It was hard. It was not very happy, and when that support happened or when that support developed, it really made a difference. I came to work happier. I was less worried about things back at home, and I feel that when there is support, professionally, I do much better. I can see that. And so that really does make an impact, whether or not we give it much credit. Having the right people around you really does influence you to do better and more
True.
positive things. And worries about unsupportive people or toxic environment or people who are willing to dim your light, who will go out of the way to dim your light, right? They add burdens to your life, and they pull you down. So even when you're at work, you're thinking about, oh God, what will happen when I go back home? What is the reaction that I will face from people? So these things slow you down, they tie you down. So having the right support mechanisms, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's a spouse, and whether it's your children, it really makes a difference into the careers, and it particularly for women, because I feel that women feel a lot of guilt when it
Yeah.
comes to prioritizing and balancing their work-life balance. Figuring out how much time they have to give to their family, their
Family and
home, to domestic responsibilities, to their kids. So guilt is really a very female trait in this regard. So if women are well supported, then that guilt is a little less, and it makes it easier for them to perform well in their jobs, and also be productive and happier in their households. So I feel that is important. Men don't necessarily have that burden, because it is assumed that if men are the primary breadwinners, profession तो उनकी responsibility है. They will have to do it. So and their families generally don't have a choice but to support it. They're like, yes, he has to earn, so we have to support it. But that's not necessarily the case with women.
Okay, so is there any advice you would like to give to another professional female
I think yes. I
on
think
building and maintaining a strong relationship with family or
I think it is very important to understand what your constraints are,
okay.
and then figure out where your ambitions are, and then negotiate between them. Sometimes by being overly ambitious, when there is so much negativity or toxicity surrounding you, it becomes really hard for you to maintain on your ambition. But eventually things do figure out. So if you sustain and maintain efforts, um, and even if you don't change the world overnight, eventually you do figure out your career, you do figure out your profession. So I think, and I know I have also evolved as a person over time, but perhaps being overly ambitious or being highly ambitious is not the best way to go around. What is more important is having a sense of consistency and persistence and resilience, that okay, we'll manage. We'll get up every day and we will figure out the day and we will manage. And then once that habit is established, that persistence and that resilience, that grit is established, then when you become ambitious and then you decide, okay, this is what I want to really achieve, it is so much better than when you don't have that grit to back your ambition.
Can you discuss any situation where your family support system has empowered you to take on leadership roles or start your own business?
I have dabbled with entrepreneurship
Okay.
on multiple instances. It was always because of family support. My parents, my mother in particular, were very, very supportive of these things. And when I have had to back off from them, it has also been because of family. So circumstances within the household have changed, and I have not been able to pursue those businesses the same way that I wanted to. So I think it's a mix. Sometimes the same people can be very supportive, and sometimes circumstances can change, and they can become reasons for you having to quit something that you are very passionate about. So it works both ways.
Yeah. How has the emotional support provided your family impacted your overall well-being and performance in your professional life?
I think in terms of my professional career, I haven't really relied very much on my family's emotional support. I don't complain about work on a day-to-day basis. At max, I say बहुत काम है, but it's not something that I take back home and I crib about. And I do know that people do that. People's families know everything about what's happening in their work, and that seems to work for them. But it doesn't work for me. So for me, I think that has not really been, on a daily basis, that has not really been a cause of concern. However, yes, when something big happens, or when I feel that there is some accomplishment, or I feel that there is something that I just want to vent out about. So I would talk to my husband or my mother, and it really helps, to get that out, that positivity and that negativity both, and that makes it, everything less of a burden. Because eventually, whatever your professional career is, no matter how much you enjoy it, comes with a sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
So there is some sort of stress or anxiety that it contributes, no matter how happy you are.
Have you ever had to make sacrifices in your personal or professional life due to your family support system?
Yes.
You did?
There are days when I have to take days off because my children are not well. And while my husband and I try to balance out the days that we
How
take
many,
off.
sorry, I'm interrupting you, but
No
how
worry.
many children do you
I
have?
have two kids.
Two
I have two
kids?
kids. I have a
Okay.
7-year-old and a 2.5-year-old.
Okay.
So there have been days when they have been sick, and even though my husband also tries to take time out to be with them, particularly on a day where I have a very busy schedule, I've made a conscious decision to be in a job where there's some form of flexibility, so that I can be more around with my kids. My husband is a lawyer. He doesn't necessarily always have that benefit or that convenience. So it really helps me that I live, say, close to my workplace, or that there are days when I can manage around my schedule and go home for a little while to check on them. So yes, there is a compromise. Sometimes I have had job offers, or we can offer additional courses, opt to take additional course loads during the university year, and I don't do that because for me that summertime, or whatever extra time is left out of the day, that is important for my family. and my parents live in a different city. So if I start teaching summers, for example, it would mean that my daughter and I never have the same schedule to as a holiday, and we can never go
Yeah.
meet my parents. So all of these things are definitely considered and factored into decision making.
Have you noticed any differences in the level of support received by female professionals from different cultural backgrounds and within their families?
Yes, a lot. I mean, just talking about my family of origin, my parents' family, and my in laws, I mean, there are huge cultural differences in how females are accepted within the workplace, or just the family conversations surrounding, women who have professional lives. There are definitely differences. And in many households, I've heard of comments like, uh, वो अपने बच्चों पे ध्यान नहीं दे सकते, ऑब्वियसली जॉब पे जाती हैं ना, फिर बैलेंस नहीं होती चीज़ें. So they are not necessarily always judgmental. Sometimes it is observational for them. They don't necessarily come from an ill intent, but those thought processes are there. Whereas, if I talk about families like mine, there is this idea that, okay, if there are challenges, or if there are trouble balancing, there is a there's a very strong idea of, okay, it will figure out, eventually it will figure out, you will sort it, you will figure it out, you will figure out, ye bhi ho jayega, wo bhi ho jayega. So there is this acceptance that multiple things can happen at the same time, which means that a woman can pursue their career, and they can still be a very active part of the family and be in a parental role all at the same time. And I've seen that. I have seen that because I have seen in my family, my mother, my mamani, my khala, they have all taken care of their children, their in-laws, everybody in different capacities, really sick people at home. Everybody has contributed alongside maintaining their career, alongside maintaining professional responsibilities. It has not been easy, no. And yes, I'm sure there have been some compromises, compromises like, okay, we will eat the same thing twice or thrice, or sometimes we'll order food, or sometimes we will have something super basic, right? So there have been compromises. There have also been compromises in terms of, okay, we will have somebody who will come in, somebody who is helping us out, कभी वो अपनी मर्जी कर लेंगे तो हम मान जाएंगे, खैर है, so of course there have been some compromises, but there is definitely a different perspective to in the families where ambitious or career or oriented or professional women are encouraged. I do want to mention a particular example. Somebody I know from Chitral. She comes from a very rural background, but she's a teacher herself, and one of her daughters is a professional footballer.
Okay.
Right, and it is very hard to come from a very conservative background,
Yeah.
and encourage your daughter to be an athlete. But having found that courage yourself and then passing it on to your daughter, so that she's now a very vocal spokesperson about women in sports and about the facilities and about the care for them, and while you're getting all these threatening messages from the community, I mean, those are not the challenges that I have faced. So culturally, people do get different challenges, and people have different mindsets, and that's okay. We cannot all be the same, but what we do need to recognize is that eventually women have that choice, and women should be supported with that choice. For years, they have been supporting men in pursuing careers of their choice. If my husband comes to me and says, oh, I have to go to XYZ for so many days because of work, I don't tell him, no, you can't go. Who will take care of the children? we just assume that he will do that, right? So maybe women do also expect some reciprocity or some, return in the form of, okay, we will also encourage you with your careers. So yes.
Okay, so how do you think the role of family support system um, in professional females evolve over time?
I think it has changed. While I do feel that for some families, sending the women out to the workplace to work, making them pursue a career, was essentially because they knew the financials just wouldn't work out, and they needed more people to be earning more, to be more independent. In other families, this has come out because they have begun to recognize that women need some form of financial independence as they grow, as they create their own families. Uh, in other households, families have become more open to supporting this choice of pursuing careers because education is important. Everybody has become more educated, and they have begun to recognize that, okay, women have that power and that choice themselves, and they should be taking that decision, and they can make those decisions for themselves. They don't need somebody else telling them that decision. So there has been a cultural evolution. I think I've seen that a lot. I don't recall so many women working in so many different types of careers. So, for example, my father was a banker. When we were very young, his bank branch would maybe just have one or two women in the workplace. Now there are a lot of women in banking. And they are pretty solid careers. People have been in banking. People who choose banking are pretty set to be in the profession for many, many years, right? Sometimes decades. So,
True.
so these are very conscious choices that women are making. And then when workplaces are making accommodations, or I think accommodations is perhaps the wrong word, when workplaces are beginning to recognize the importance of women in um, in the environment, and the importance of having a female perspective within the workplace, they are making sure to take care of these women. Not everybody is, but many places are. The government has over time supported the formation of daycares in large workspaces. They have also supported, campaigns to support women with breastfeeding and nursing. And while some of these campaigns are rudimentary and basic, they have still generated a conversation about how women can be more supported and more helped out at the workplace. And employers have also become more particular about it. So I think the number of employers who say, okay, it's okay, you are having a bad day, you don't have help at home, bring the kid over, it's okay. That has increased. And overall, I think post-pandemic, the number of jobs which offer some form of flexibility have also increased. So that has really advantaged women in pursuing their careers. And then at the same time, I also see women who are very well educated just making a very conscious decision to not pursue a career.
Oh, yeah, true.
And that is also
It
perfectly
happens.
okay, because now their decision is not because of what the family said, it is because of what they thought was best for them. And it's perfectly okay for a woman to decide, I don't want to pursue a career unless there is an extreme financial need and I really have to. And I do want to be the person primarily responsible for the domestic, housekeeping, for the care of the children, for the care of the elderly, and whatever else are, traditional responsibilities that are associated with being home. So just having that choice itself is very strong. Itself is very important.
Okay. So, do you think there are some generational differences between professional females? If so, have you ever observed any these differences?
Yes, I think in my parents' generation, when women went out to work, they were still 100% expected to be back and, perform all domestic responsibilities. I think that trend has changed a little bit. Men are more involved in parenting and in domestic responsibilities. Perhaps not as much as they should be, but still much more than they used to be. Men are spending a lot more time with their children. And there are lots of statistics to support it. So all of these things do give women, a little bit of buffer when they come back home. So even perhaps if they're not juggling two full-time jobs, their professional job and their domestic job, they may perhaps that domestic responsibility might have been lessened a little bit. Another perspective that I have seen is that women have also become more vocal in their workplaces about their contributions at home. So they will say, my child is sick, I will not be coming in. Instead of, asking a random relative to take care of their children on a particular day. Or, having, because now reliance on on that big extended village has become less. So women have become more vocal in saying, hold on a second, we also have other things to do. And I think not everybody takes it kindly or nicely, but they have become more accustomed to hearing that women have more things to do, and they recognize it. So all of these things, contribute to the women's experiences within their professional lives.
Okay, so is there something else you want to share about your experience regarding this topic?
I think the most important aspect for me in all of these years has been to recognize that I don't need to seek permission as a woman, as a mother, to be a professional. And that is very important, because it means that when I have a child in my care and I have to go to a work meeting, I don't have to ask people that I'm going to bring my child. I will just take my child and take care of my child while doing whatever work is to be done. Okay. And and this really contributes to a different level of freedom, because instead of thinking that my family life will tie me down, I think it's okay, everything can go side by side and it will figure out. And that perspective means that I am more resilient, there is more grit, and there's so much more that I can accomplish. And I think one of the hardest things of being a parent is having this perpetual brain fog, where we feel that, and I think a lot of women feel that, where once they have children, it's like they feel that their mental capacity for perhaps intellectual stuff, diminishes or becomes less. Recognizing that you can still manage something really helps, because now you know that you are more than what you think you are. And that is a very powerful message to take away and to remember for yourself.
Okay, so thank you so much. It was very nice talking to you. And now we're going to wrap up this, but thank you so much for coming.